What is up, nerds? Welcome to the Podioslave podcast. My name is Nate, and I'm here with two rad nerds, Anthony and Tone. How you guys doing this fine evening?
Hi, my name is Anthony. No, it's not actually. My name's Tony.
You're the other one.
I'm actually Tony, and my name isn't even Tony. I'm gonna fuck with everybody right now. My name's not even really Tony, so deal with it. And we are here, episode 93, and we're gonna give you our best of 2021.
You know,
Yes.
I'm going to answer that question honestly. I'm doing terrible. I've had a cold for the last few days. I sound like shit.
Not COVID.
Not COVID. Just the cold, common cold. Could be the flu, but I think it's common cold. So, Tony, you said last week the Podioslave engine is always running, which is true, but the warning lights are on, the engine is sputtering, the battery's dead, the alternator has failed, but we're here. We are here.
Someone took the gas cap off and siphoned out the gas.
The seats are always warm, though, which is nice.
They are warm.
Someone's always
we
keeping the seats warm.
bought the heated seats. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling. You can probably hear it with the nasally voice, but we're here, and that's all that matters. And we are here for another action-packed episode of the Podioslave podcast. Other than that, I'm doing great.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's always fun to nerd with the boys, and I mean, I put up the meme last week. All of my problems, slap that bad boy on the leak, and pod with the boys. That kid takes care of it. So we've had a pretty fun evening to this point, doing some odds and ends with some down the road episodes that you guys will hear in the not too distant future. So pretty exciting. Had some old friends come back and tell us some fun things, and that'll be out, 6 weeks from now, 7 weeks from now. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll keep you posted on that one. That's coming soon. But tonight we're going to talk. 2021's been a great year for us as far as the podcast goes. It's been a lot of turmoil in the world. We're not super worried about that aspect of it. We're going to talk about it through the lens of Podioslave and what we've been able to accomplish, who we've been able to talk to, and the music that we love that has come out this year. So this is our year-end 2021 Podioslave Nerdery in Review.
Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a year. I was kind of taking inventory of the guests we've had, which have been over the top impressive. I'm not going to list them out one by one, but when you throw out bands like 311, All American Rejects, Taproot, As Friends Rust, Zebrahead, Distillers, it's like, damn, we did that,
Yeah.
And I think
Frank Turner,
Frank Turner, Incendiary, Sparks the Rescue, Primer 55,
Steve.
The Urge,
yeah.
Trawl, Cat from Pure Noise Records, Jameson Ketchum, the author, Tucker from Thursday. And we got some fun stuff in the works, which we're not going to even hint on right now. But when you mention those bands, they're not bands that you think is even possible to have on when you start the podcast. The fact that we got those folks and kind of a steamroll effect, like, or a snowball effect, where it just keeps picking up steam and the stakes keep getting higher. And it makes me excited for what we're going to do in 2022.
Yeah. No, well said. Especially because I think there was a time when we were recording this year where we thought, oh shit, like pandemic's kind of easing up a little bit. Like these people have a life, they are musicians firsthand. So coming on the podcast is a little bit, off the center in terms of their bandwidth time wise. So we thought like, oh man, it's probably going to slow down. Getting guests on is probably going to be not as easy as the lockdown because everyone's busy. Turns out, we've got a good cadence when people keep saying yes. So, and on top of that, along with the guests, I think our original content has gotten better. I think we've gotten more comfortable. I'm kind of speaking for myself, just 10,000 hours type stuff, just feeling more comfortable on what we do. And, we have a good flow. So it's been a good year and it is getting better. It's amazing.
Spose. How could I forget Spose? Spose has
I was just going to say Spose too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just to piggyback on what you said, Nate, to have repeat guests, I think that's a testament to how much we enjoyed talking with them, but they still have to say yes. So I feel like if they had a shitty time the first time, they probably wouldn't say yes. So hopefully they had a great time, and that's why they're coming back.
I mean, everything you guys just said times 1,000. I love what we do. I love that we've turned this into an outlet, a nerdery, a place for nerds to come and be, part of it. We have engagement on social media. We have podcast friends, our boys in Trawl, the Playlist Wars guys, the Itch guys. Like we have people that are engaging in what we do every day because they're like-minded nerds. So it's been really fun to grow this thing to where it's at right now. And I don't think we're done. I think we're going to continue to grow this thing. And 2022 is going to be, we're going to be doing this next year around now and being like, I can't believe we had this person and that person and this person and that person, because we're here to grind and we're here to talk to people and we love this stuff. Obviously, I mean, check the receipts. We do this every week because we love it, and we've spent all this time with this music. We spent all this time collecting things, pulling stuff off of bathroom walls, finding ticket stubs on the floor, because it's who we are. It's in our being, and we're here for more. We're not done yet. So stay tuned in 2022 because it's just going to be as big, if not better.
Yeah, I think 20 mentioned it in the group text that we're in. We're kind of club scene, which we never thought we'd even play a club, and we're kind of eyeing the theater like, oh man, I really want to play that venue. So I guess we'll just keep trucking along and we'll eventually be able to fill the room.
Who's going to open for us? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we're genuine about it. There's no end game, there's no gotcha questions. It's just questions we want to know, and we're not answering to anyone or given the Zane Lowe questions, but we're also not like the conspiracy theorists, trying to get the, like I said, the gotcha stuff out of guests. It's what we want to know. And if you're like us that listened to this music growing up, it resonates with you, and we appreciate everyone checking us out. And as Tucker said last week from Thursday, we got out there and started. Most people don't start. I think that's a big part of this, is just getting out there every week and starting. But not only starting, but continuing with it and building on that momentum. It's like, well, who can we interview now? I don't know if you guys feel like this, but for me, it's like, well, no one's off limits at this point. I mean, we're not going to get Dave Grohl yet, we're not going to get him now, but we may get him down the road, and it's just
you never know.
Slow building blocks to, to grow this thing, which has been a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, man. All right. We want to get into our top 5 of the year with a couple honorable mentions to start. Just we're not going to spend too much time on the honorable mentions, but we do want to. We have more than 5 great albums that came out in 2021, so we want to shed a little light on those. But we'll get into our top 5 proper after that. Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah. Nate, you start us. Any honorable mentions?
I don't really have any honorable mentions. I kind of just rendered it down to a pretty tight list. I take it back. I had Thrice on here and I crossed it out for another band. I think that would be my one. And I really like, obviously we're all big fans, but
yeah. Yep. There would be an honorable mention for me too. I need to spend more time with that record. It's good. It has some really high points, but then there's some like stuff that I just need to give another spin to maybe appreciate a little more.
All right. I'll jump in with a few that I had, and I'll go quick because I have at least a half dozen here. So the Landmarks album, Lost in the Waves, we talked about it at the halfway mark episode. Great record, just didn't crack the top 5. Fiddleheads, Between the Richness, we talked about that same episode. Great record, didn't crack the top 5. Dying Wishes, Fragments of a Bitter Memory was fantastic. They were a new band for me this year, which I loved. Same thing with God's Hate, self-titled, I loved. Julian Baker's Little Oblivions, we talked about that a little bit at the halfway mark. And then as far as EPs, they were kind of naturally excluded from my top 5, but I liked Koyo's Drives Out East. It was on Triple B Records. That was great. Knocked Loose's A Tear in the Fabric of Life. Great, but just, great concept, great record, too short to be considered. And then the new EP from The World, which is Maddie from A Loss for Words, who we had on the podcast. His new project, That EP is in your face, Boston hardcore. It's great. Check that out. But that's what I got for honorables.
Yeah, I echo your Julian Baker and your Fiddlehead. I had both of them as honorable mentions as well. I re-listened to Julian Baker and Fiddlehead yesterday, and I was like, these are great, but they didn't have enough to crack my top 5. The Trawl EP, I love those guys. I mean, I got to watch them. I saw them live at Aura in Portland, Maine back in July. It was the first show back after the pandemic. I say in quotation marks because we're still in it. And that was cool. And I'm happy for those guys. I'm excited to see what 2022 brings for them because they're awesome dudes and make some good music. Similar for me, the Kanye record. If it had been shorter, man, if it had been 12, 13 songs, it'd be in my top 5. It might even be like top 2 or 3, but it's just a little too long. There is a top 1 or 2 album in there, and we talked about that with Spoils. Go back and listen to episodes 82 and 83. There's more there. It's a little too much. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions from here. That Thrice record too, Nate. I need to spend more time with that.
It's a grower. That album's a grower.
Toby put something out this year. Our episode 44 guest, right? He tossed out an EP a couple weeks ago. That's cool. Go check that out. Toby McAllister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that Thrice album. First listen, I wasn't blown away. Second and third, I was like, all right, there's more here that I will like if I pay more attention to it. And sadly, I didn't give it many listens beyond that, so I definitely owe that some more time. That would also be kind of an alternate for me. Doesn't crack the top 5, but with more time, maybe it could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a big variable is just time spent, because and what you always mention, it's bookended by Thrice's legacy, which is like they have so many amazing albums, so you're kind of stacking it against what you know and you've played and you've worn out and got to the point where it skips and you got to buy a new album kind of thing. So, we're still in the current year that we're talking about, so that a year hasn't even lapsed to return to this album, 5 or 6 years later.
That's a great point. It really is. There's
a grandfathered fact, right, that goes into how it stacks up. But when you're rating albums within the year, it's like, we're the MTV Music Awards at this point. Like, it's the stuff that's the top of mind kind of thing. So
absolutely. I mean, there are things on this list that we'll probably give out tonight that we may not listen to again next year. And
yeah,
we're not, I mean, it just didn't hit enough to stick around because other stuff has taken its place. And that happens, right? I mean, we do that with music all the time. Every music fan does that. They'd be lying to you if they didn't. These year-end lists are fun to talk about in the moment, and then they're kind of put away, and revisiting them maybe 5 years from now would be cool, but at the same time, you may only be listening to one of these records. Who knows?
All right, we want to get into it? Who's going to start us? Who's the lead off?
I'm going to lead off. We did the Third Eye Blind episode back in, I think, episode 87. Go check that out for our thoughts on Our Band Apart, but that dropped earlier this fall, and I have it at number 5. And I mean, I love this band. Obviously, we did a whole episode on these guys. We did a whole episode on the catalog. Everything you need to hear about that, I will tell you, go back and listen to 87 because it's there. But yeah, Our Band Apart's number 5 for me.
Nice.
I'm going to reserve judgment or critique because I have it higher, actually.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, spoiler, it cracked my top 5.
Or top 4 even.
Wow, you're good, man. You're good.
I can math. I know it's late on the East Coast, but I can still math.
It's like 2 a.m. almost.
Yeah, something like that.
Nice.
All right, Nate, what's your number 5?
That one didn't crack my list, but at number 5, I think we talked about this on here at length, especially because I saw them. I actually really dug, and I think it's likely because I saw them on the tour. Angels and Airwaves Life Forms actually takes the number 5 spot.
Nice.
I gave it a lot of time, and I could swear that it's likely because I saw the show. And I got the vinyl, and I was like, all right. So it got a lot of spins. I think it was just cool to hear Tom put something out after such a long stretch. So it was almost like fresh again in that sense. But we did joke quite a bit that Tom is definitely delonging.
We made delonging a verb.
Yeah. Which is where he just accentuates his voice, I guess you'd say, or the way he pronounces words is very, very Tom DeLonge. Any nerd will kind of understand what I'm saying. I think Blink-182, there's a way he says things. Where are you is the big one.
Yeah. So, I was going to do it, but you did it. So.
Yeah. No, but I really like the album. I'm not going to lie. I listen to it a lot, and I still listen to it. And I think it's because I really like the drummer as well, Alon. He plays with Nine Inch Nails now. So there's definitely an element there, which crosses over to Angels and Airwaves. So almost like a super group at this point with having him on board. So I think that element, along with the fact that the album is a little bit futuristic and somewhat fitting of the times. Losing My Mind, I mean, I play that song and me and my wife are like, clearly like this song was written for this or these last 2 years. So yeah, takes number 5.
So this album is a perfect example of how fast the world moves, one, but two, how fast the music world moves. Like, I missed this release. And by that point, by the time I even thought about it, it was off my radar, really. if that makes sense. You know, it's
totally.
Angels has a new album. Well, I'm already into this album, and I only have so much time in the day, so I never really gave it a true listen. So this is one that I never thought to come back to. So it's probably great. I just don't know anything about it.
Well, and there's kids and there's podcasts that we're like prepping for. Like we're gonna listen to the whole Third Eye Blind catalog. We're gonna listen to the whole Kanye West catalog, like because we've got stuff coming up, or whoever else guest is coming on. We want to make sure that we're familiar with the things we're doing. So that's the hardest part about this, especially this year. Like last year, maybe not as hard. This year was harder because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There's something to be said for that, Twan. Like it does move quickly, and it moved even quicker in 2021 because of all the things pulling at us.
Yeah. Things kind of coming back to normal meant it was almost like a backlog of, now you need to work, 8 times as hard because things are opening up. It's like, oh shit, it's kind of getting used to this slow pattern.
And the unfortunate thing is, like, if it came out in a different week, maybe I would have had more time. It just that week or the following weeks that was released after, I just didn't have the time to check it out, and certainly didn't have the time to revisit it. So I'll put it on my to-do list, which means I probably will never listen to it.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
We do an episode next year where we listen to each other's top fives and be like, you had it right. Man, you were way off on this. We could do that, right? That's there's some free content for all you podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing with the Angels album, which going along with what you're saying, Twan, being super busy and 20 things happening simultaneously, is when it's up tempo, like high tempo type music, it's almost easier because you can have it as a background music and get shit done. Where if it's like a metal album or something where you kind of have to give it a little bit more time of day, like you have to be really dedicated to that album. This Angels and Airwaves album I kind of had in the background working like many days. So
nice. Yeah.
So you're saying I have no excuses?
Yeah. The thing is, I've missed a lot too, so I understand your sentiment big time.
Yeah. All right, Twan, what'd you have at 5?
So I had a band, Teenage Wrist, Earth is a Black Hole.
Great record.
Yeah, it cracked my top 5. It's a band that I never listened to before this year. I'd known the name. I mean, how could you forget that name? I know the name for a few years.
The handicap.
Exactly. You're segueing kind of into my spiel here, which is their name's definitely a bandicap, but it's almost like a reverse bandicap where it's like the name's so bizarre and so why the fuck would you call your a band that I'm like intrigued. It's almost like the Butthole Surfers effect, where it's like maybe it's actually helped them. But yeah, Earth is a Black Hole.
It's an earworm bandicap.
It's an earworm. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're very confused. But if you know,
yes, only you guys know, and I'm sorry for the rest of you that had to endure this.
Oh man, but yeah, this album, super crisp production. I actually didn't do the research to see who produced it, but it's phenomenal. It came out on Epitaph Records, so I don't know. Maybe it was a big budget. I wouldn't think so, but yeah, if you live in the Jimmy Eat world, or even Hum, I hear some Hum elements on this album with a heavier lean towards Jimmy Eat World. Like, go check this record out. Like, Yellow Belly's great song. Silver Spoon could be my favorite on this, and the closing track Stella, phenomenal. I just love this record. I come back to it quite a bit, actually. I would say I first checked this out maybe early summer because it came out in February, and I've listened to it every month since. Great record. Wow. Great record.
You turned me onto it. I meant to have it as an honorable mention. 1 and 2. I saw something the other day that likened it to grunge, which surprised me.
Huh.
I was like, it was on TikTok, so it's probably a Gen Zer who thinks they know what grunge is, which is funny to me. But at the same time, like there are probably some elements there, but I just would never have pegged it for that because you're right, it's clean. Because grunge is not clean production wise per se, and its clanginess, its clunkiness is kind of what makes grunge. It's dark, dour aspects are kind of what makes grunge what it is. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. You said that, and I remember listening to it probably 4 or 5 times when you told me about it, and I meant to have it on my honorable mention because it is great.
Now that you say grunge, there's some 90s elements that I actually listened to this tonight again to kind of refamiliarize with myself with it because it'd been a few weeks. And I need to pinpoint the band, but there's a band from the 90s where I'm like, this is pulling from that, but I couldn't pinpoint it. But definitely the 90s. Yep.
All right, we up to 4?
Yeah, number 4.
It's me again, isn't it? All right, my number 4 is Halsey. If I can't have love, I want power. I wore this out when it came out in late August, I believe. And I even listened to it again the other day, probably 3 or 4 times the last 2 weeks. It has some really cool elements from her. It's something that there's a lot of like writing about her being pregnant and having a baby. And I don't know anything about that. And I'm like intrigued by it because I don't know anything about it. And she's laying out her feelings about it. And I love when an artist puts themselves out there like that.
Yeah.
And that's what hits home with me on this record, is that she is putting her whole world out there for us to listen to and connect with. Even if it's not something that I can ever relate to, I connected with it because of that. She's giving you her. And like, I feel like we give us out to the world every week with this. And it's easy for me to, understand that it's hard to do that, to talk in front of people and put out your feelings and your how you are about things to the world. And this is why it connected with me. It's great. I think it's really good. I love that the nails aspect of it. Yeah, it's number 4 for me. And we talked about her a ton last year too. She's very talented, and the fact that she paired with Trent and Atticus, I loved it. It's great.
Nice. This is very Twan Tone-esque. This is my number 4 as well. Really dug it. Like really got in deep with Halsey on this album. I think the Trent Reznor aspect for me was a big proponent. I think what you just said stands true. It actually reminds me of it's a weird parallel, but the show Queen's Gambit on Netflix really showcases a perspective that I can't completely relate with, but I'm happy that someone was able to put it out there for me to see. So I think you described it, exactly the way I envisioned it, listening to it multiple times. And the Trent Reznor layering, or him and Atticus, just made it full production, like made it a masterpiece of an album that should actually maybe even be higher. I love this album, man. It's great. And very supportive of what she's doing. And hopefully I can catch her on a tour. I don't know is she touring on this album or not,
I don't know right now. Yeah.
It'd be cool if Trent and Atticus were to join her on the tour, but yeah, killer album, plays through front to back. Would be a good record to have. I think you have it on vinyl, right?
I do. Yeah.
So yeah, no, tied at number 4 for Halsey for sure.
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time with this, so I can't really comment on that. What I can say is, for an artist like that to take that departure and risk, it does not happen a lot. I mean, it honestly, it's one thing for like a Thrice to take a departure, but for someone like Halsey to take a departure, that's super risky. And in fact, the label is really taking the big risk. I mean, you have Halsey who, I think she was often lumped in with like G-Eazy because I think they were dating at one point. But like, that's the caliber of artist she is. This isn't like a, small indie label, someone experimenting. No, this is like potentially someone's legacy on the line. And it's a big risk. And for all accounts that I've heard, it was widely accepted as being a success. And clearly you guys have it top 5, so that's proof of that.
Yep. It's a great record. I mean, I would tell you to listen to it again. It's you're right. It's her taking a risk and going as big as she was before this, going a different route and also knocking it out of the park.
Yeah. I mean, and this is just anecdotal, but I imagine her clientele, her fan base was maybe teens, late teens. That's a group that they're hit up by so much in the world, like whether it's, social media, this band, that band, whatever, that anything that doesn't grab their attention, they're moving on. It's yesterday's newspaper type thing. So it's a risk. It's a big risk. And for it to hit is pretty cool. And, anything with Trent certainly helps. A la, Social Network soundtrack?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was both your 4s?
Yep. What do you got for 4?
I get another repeat. I have Third Eye Blind, Our Band Apart.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Won't go crazy with this, but I'll just kind of underscore and emphasize that I ranked this their 6th best album, and it's number 4 for the year. I mean, how many bands can you say that?
Wow, yeah.
Like we said, 9 songs, so it's a little light, but I think every song hits. And this is like the barely swing but still get a double type of thing. Like great contact, hit the outfield gap, not even swinging hard. Like I feel like Jenkins could do this album like every 3 years for the next 20 years and just still hit. Didn't even try.
And just for context, you said number 6 for our Third Eye Blind deep dive episode, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And like they're in almost year 30, and most bands, their year 30 is very forgettable. And this was far
if it even exists.
Yeah, if it even exists.
Because there aren't many that
in most
even
cases
exists.
It's a caricature of themselves, and I think this could have come out in the 90s and would have hit. I think it could have come out in the 2020s and would have hit, and it did. So
yeah,
great record. Kudos to those guys. Jenkins, if you're listening, come on the podcast, man.
Yeah, hey Steven, you saw one of our stories. You can come on, man. We're down. We're down to clown to talk a little bit. All right, we up to 3.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me, local boy, friend of the pod. He put out a double album this year. Spose,
Nice.
Get Rich or Die Ryan. It's 2 albums. It's 2 albums that are distinctly different. Both Spose. One's a rock record with the Humans. You can listen to that, and that can be it for the day. And then you can move on and listen to the rap part. Die Ryan. Get Rich is the rock part. Die Ryan is the rap part. He's been doing, Spose and Ben's Been Dead have been doing a little Twitter morning show, and I've popped in every now and then. He's had me on, and they asked me which one I like better one morning, and I was like Die Ryan, because it's tried and true Spose, like to the nth degree. He's like braggadocious and giving you every great bar that he has, because he's got a ton of them. But I also love the fact that he put out a rock record on the front half of his double CD. So yeah, Get Rich or Die Ryan's my number 3 for the year. Came out in October. He's a friend of the pod. I love Spose, and I'll listen to this a ton because that's just what I do with this stuff. So he's got my number 3 spot.
Nice. Good to give props to the locals, and it is a great record, man. I should have had this higher. I guess it'd be an honorable mention for me, actually, now that I think of it. Number 3 for me is actually a house band, and thought about this one for a long time because it's bookended by some pinnacle albums in the history of music. But Foo Fighters takes number 3. I love this record. I play it actually pretty often because it's fun, and in a tough hang for 2020 and 2021 even to an extent. This is a upbeat album, a lot of fun. Play it, you feel like you want to dance, and it's not like their other albums. I feel like they were kind of going through some similar grooves for a long time, and obviously they have their sound. But yeah, Medicine at Midnight, great fucking record, man. And it's a front to back record too, so I can't say that they've put a front to back record out in quite a few cycles, to be honest. And it's they're tight, but you kind of always resort back to their classics like Color and the Shape. But they came back strong with this album, and I think it shows that they're having fun, and that makes me happy. That makes me want to have fun. So seeing a band that's not just going through the motions, but putting out a record that is right of center for what they're known for, which is making some really strong ballads and rock songs. But this is like a dancey, I don't even know what you'd call this album, like a pop rock album, I guess you'd say.
Disco Grohl, baby.
Disco Grohl. Yeah. Looking forward to catching these guys on the tour. Their tours have also been delayed from the pandemic, so they're kind of sporadic.
I got tickets for next summer.
Nice. Yeah, they're kind of
Outdoors
sporadic.
in Bangor, yeah. They're playing the Maine State Amphitheater or whatever in Bangor, Maine, which is right near the casino, so sucks to be me, I guess.
Oh, that's perfect. They haven't played Maine since this Chili Peppers tour, probably
97.
Yeah,
99. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Wow, nice. Yeah, so this takes my number 3.
Juan, did you have either of those records at number 3?
No, I did not.
Spose or Foo Fighters? I didn't think so.
You want to jump into it?
Yeah, what do you got?
So it's a record I actually talked about back in our halfway episode, which is Gojira's Fortitude. Won't spend a lot of time now on it, but I guess the punchline here is for a band that's been around for 25 years to have their best album come out in year 25 or whatever it's been, 24. It's pretty fucking impressive. And I think this is a universally accepted metal record. If you're a new metalhead, give this record a spin. If you're an Ozfest guy, give it a spin. If you're a death metal fan, give it a spin. There's something for everyone. Metalcore, you name it. We could have a whole episode of every metal subgenre, and everyone would crucify us for it. We won't do that.
You made a meme. I mean, you made the meme that launched 1,000 ships on Reddit, man, like that. If you like any form of metal, go listen to this Gojira record. Twan's right.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and even within the album, there's like variable sounds and whatnot. It's just great. Mall metal, new metal, death metal, metalcore.
What is mall metal, bro?
What the fuck is mall metal? If you have
People
to
were
ask,
so angry about that.
if you know, you know. If you don't, figure it out.
Yeah, fuck you.
Great record. If you told like 2004 me that in 2021 Gojira would have one of the best albums of the year and have their best album of the year, I'd be like, they're still going to be a band in 2021?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's a great record. Check it out. We've talked about it enough, I think.
You like that record. It's cool, man. But have you listened to it while you're flying into Portland, Maine on a plane and landing? Like that's next level right there. You're like, bruh, the whole plane is shaking and shit. You're like, yes, this is awesome.
I haven't, but I take it you have.
Yes, I did that once. Yeah.
Nice. That's a good point. It's an interesting way to listen to music when you're on a plane. Something about it.
All right. We ready for number 2?
Yep.
This is tough. 1 and 2, I interchanged a bunch this year. We talked about my number 2 in our halfway point, but it was an EP at the time. What am I talking about? You know.
It's my number 2, but you go ahead too.
It's Turnstile. Glow On, right? Great record. Great record. Everybody and their brother is telling you it's a great record right now. Their sister too. It is. It's really, really good. It's got that Reading Rainbow-esque thing at the beginning. Nate told us about back in August. Man, I could listen to this 10 times in a row and not be sick of it. It's so damn good. And if you don't like Turnstile or you're sick of hearing about Turnstile, you're wrong. Sorry. Deal with it.
It's funny. Like I was thinking as I was like putting this at number 2, I'm like, this is the cop-out answer. This is the cop-out. But it's like, no, if it's good, it's good. Like, if you're the pitchfork snob, you still like this. If you're the Brooklyn vegan, truist or whatever, you like this. So it is what it is. It's great. Like, if it's great, let it resonate. Why punish the band? Because that's the narrative now. Everyone's sick of talking about Turnstile. Well, it's like, there's a reason for that. I mean, they're on, by the time this airs, they will have just been on Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Right.
And,
wow.
And we haven't seen it because we're living in the past or future. I don't know. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Both. We're living in everything.
And I bet they knocked it out of the fucking park. It's, it reminds me of the early 2000s when like H2O and Thursday, they were all on those shows. And this scene hasn't been represented in the Late Show for years. Mm-hmm. And here they are again. And it's awesome. And I love it. And it's like, well, if it wasn't them, it wouldn't be anyone. So embrace it.
Yeah. It's a different world now because we were all spoon-fed, different bands that might have had the best album of the year in 1999. Bands that were plastered and shoved down our throat. Like, we were talking about it earlier with a past guest before we jumped on about Incubus, Make Yourself. Well, it is a great record though. It was overplayed and whatnot, but at the end of the day, like it still holds up today. It's still an amazing record. So I think that's Turnstile, and that'll probably be Turnstile, 10, 20 years from now when it's being revisited. It stands the test of time today and it'll hold up then. So yeah, we just live in a different era now where things are being bastardized for essentially no reason.
The hard part about all of this is that you have a take. All right. Somebody like Turnstile puts a record out. It's a great record. Most people really like it. People that don't necessarily listen to the genre jump in because it's good and it's an entry point for them. And they're like, man, this is really cool. Maybe I should listen to other stuff. And that's a good thing, right? As far as we're concerned, nerdery wise, we want people in. And then you get the backlash. You get the bunch of people that are like, nah, I don't want to give this credit because it's getting credit everywhere I look. And it deserves the credit. Like, don't be the backlash guy. Don't be the backlash girl. Let it happen. It's really good. Leave it be. Like, we don't need to be the assholes about it. Like, man, that's what this is all about for us. Like, this is good. And Nate and I didn't know about Turnstile before this record. Twan, you knew about him, and you didn't give us shit for being late, but we were late, and here we are loving it and wanting to go back and listen to other records and find other artists in the genre. All right, I'm done with my rant.
Well, the thing is like, if you look at, maybe some of their earlier shows were in smaller rooms, but the energy, like, go look at the Hate 5-6 record release show. Like, that's the same spirit they've had since day one. I mean, a few of our former guests, like we talked about this record with Damien. We didn't talk about it with her, but I know Kat Nijmadeen rides for Turnstile. It's like,
oh, she took some awesome photos of them. Go check her pinned tweet right now. Damn.
Amazing. And those are people, I'm guessing, 20 years apart. Like, this, it's universally accepted. Like, at some point, people need to get over it. If it's good, it's good. Don't care what other people think.
Yeah, just move on.
Yeah.
All right, Nate, what was your 2?
Yeah, I know it's a big tangent on Turnstile. So my number 2, I always discover a band that I didn't know of the year prior somehow. This one was Sirius XM, I think. This band is Japanese Breakfast. The name of the album is Jubilee. This album kicks ass. It's my number 2, so saying something just there. So just discovered it this year. There's always one indie band, like I was saying, that kind of sticks out, and this one, I really like it, man. All the singles: Be Sweet, Posing in Bondage, Savage Good Boy, Paprika. I kind of just, looped in from the singles, but I play this record quite often when I'm working. It's a good background album. I said that earlier with Angels and Airwaves. So I think that's why these albums crack the 5, is because I can actually play it without being distracted, and it has some good ambiance. But I became a fan, so now I'm going to check this band when they roll through, and just kind of, it was a good reminder of, man, there's so much good music out there. If only I had more time, I'd probably be checking out stuff like this all the time. And yeah, it was kind of given to me through the SiriusXM platform, so it still kind of falls into that. This has been catered for you, but glad it did, because it's a great band, great album, and looking forward to what these guys are going to be putting in to the future. So, you guys know these bands?
So Nate, if you're someone like me who only knows this band or group by name, give me the record label pitch.
Oh man, that's a loaded question. I don't really know how I would describe it. They're like an indie rock band, kind of like just chill vibes band.
Well, I just looked up the similar artists on Spotify, and Julian Baker's name was recommended. Recommended if you like that type of thing. So it's kind of putting that headspace. I only know them by name.
I only know them by name too, and this is why I kind of love doing this podcast, and I say that all the time, but this is another one of those reasons. I didn't know you liked them, Nate, until right now.
Right. Yeah. Me
and
too.
like, there's so much music, and we're all just like, it's one of those things that just didn't get mentioned in conversation, even though we're always talking about music, because there's so much music and there's so much good music. So it's something for me now to check out, because if you're into it, I mean, we've been doing 90 some odd episodes of podcasting about music. I'm sure there's something there that I can like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a great point, because I love Gojira as much as I love this album. So it's like, we're kind of all over the map here.
In a good way.
Yeah, that's going to go on my to listen to list, which is getting bigger, more bigger than it's getting more smaller, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's digestible.
Mo better.
Your English teacher's not a fan of that conversation, that sentence right now. I'm not going to.
It's getting faster, bigger, more than it's
harder,
getting
stronger.
Harder, stronger.
Well, it's digestible. It's only 36 minutes, so.
I'm in on that, Nate. That's great. I'm excited to listen to that, because 36 minutes. I can listen to that like 3 times in a row without really. Would you listen to it 24 hours in a row, no skips?
Yeah, actually, I would. I think I have, probably.
Earworm terrorist.
Yes, earworm terrorist, trademark tone. Don't steal that from me. That's mine.
You guys didn't see it, but I just Venmo'd Tone for the royalties.
He did. He had to. Yeah, it was like 7 cents, but he pays better than Spotify. All right, we're moving on.
Keep the change.
All right, we're up to number one, right? We're up to our number ones.
Yep.
I'm going to give my number one. It's the same as it was halfway through the year. It's Manchester Orchestra, Million Masks of God. I fucking love this record. I listened to it again on my way home tonight and was like, is it still my number one? Yep, it is. I saw him live in October in Maine, in Portland at the State Theater. It was I've been to a couple shows before that show, but seeing that show was as emotional as I had been at a show back from the pandemic. And it's a band I love. Wasn't sure I'd see him again. And to see them play a record I love, my favorite record of this year. And this is one I will definitely be coming back to because I listen to Black Mouth to the Surface all the time. So I can't say enough about this band. My favorite record of 2021 is Million Masks of God from Manchester Orchestra.
I got to admit, this I forgot about this record while prepping for this episode. It would be an honorable mention, without a doubt. I think when we did that halfway episode, I said Angel of Death was one of the best songs of the year. And I still stand by that. It's his vocals. Is it Andy?
Andy Hall.
Oh, beautiful vocals. Like I would listen to that song if like an a cappella version and it would still hit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Great record. Very like subdued visuals, but it really works. It forces you as the listener to kind of put your own visual interpretation on it, which is pretty rad. I like that. Yeah, good choice. Good choice, Tone.
Yeah, and I'm actually with you. I forgot about this one, and I'm catching them I think they're rolling through here in January or February. Can't remember. But yeah, this is definitely a front to back album for sure. And it's funny you say the emotional feeling you got seeing them live. I felt that just listening to the record. I think he has that voice.
He does.
That captures you. Yeah. So this would be an honorable mention. Might even be in the top 5 had I not forgotten about this.
It's okay. I mean, there's again, we said, there's so much coming out, and it was one of those nights where I went to the show by myself. I was supposed to go with my wife. Things at home were fine with us, but she couldn't make it for a different reason. And I just went by myself and ate the other ticket, which was a huge bummer. And I'm sitting upstairs by myself, like, I wish she was here. And that kind of hit me. And then I went downstairs to get a beer and I ran into Bob. Hey, Bob, good to see you and Al. And it was awesome to connect with a friend at a show that I didn't know was going to be there too. So like the whole night was just one of those like feelings that I used to get all the time going to a concert. And my album of the year is the band too. Like shit, man, like just really cool. And they put out my favorite thing last year in 2020. They're live. They did a live recording in a church of Black Mouth to the Surface front to back. And that was fucking epic. And like, they haven't missed in quite some time. This band is great. Go check it out.
Plus you saw it at the State Theater, which is next level. So
home.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to jump in because Andy has a tie with this next album that I'm going to pin at my number one. Any guesses?
Yes, I know it. It's Every Time I Die's Radical.
It is.
And he's on it. And he's on it. And it's an awesome song. That's an awesome song.
Yeah. I got to go with this one. It's interesting. With this album, there was like a long, drawn-out hype because the rumor is that they recorded it, I want to say even before the pandemic. And the pandemic hit, and they just sat on it. And that, as someone who can kind of relate with the podcast, like I just can't imagine recording it and then sitting on it for that long, knowing it's good. I'm not saying what we do, like I know we're good, but like that.
It's not on that level though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, It's just, and I get it. Like they want to tour off it, all that. But I remember when we had Kat on for episode 58, we talked about those like first 2 songs and when was that? That was early this year.
That was in May.
And they had put out they'd teased 2 songs, and those were like, shit, this is awesome. And the visuals were awesome. And like the lyrics had that, those satirical, witty, sarcastic way that Keith Buckley has with words. It was just awesome. It was just like, all right, this is the Every Time I Die I Know and Love. And I think this record hits musically. It hits visually. I love the whole optics, like the Trapper Keeper, like
Mm-hmm.
almost like 90s in your face vibe. It's Every Time I Die, like amplified and on steroids. And I think this has the same narrative that I would put for the Gojira record and the Third Eye Blind record, where like these are bands like Every Time I Die is going to be in year like 24, 25. Like these are bands that have been around for a while that are arguably putting out their best music. And I'd say that for Gojira and Every Time I Die, and Third Eye Blind still putting out great music. And it lived up to the hype. So, yeah.
That Cat episode was middle of April.
April.
Wow.
Damn. Yeah, so they sat on this for a while. And I know there's been some turmoil with them recently, been some drama, but I know they all performed at the Tid the Season, and it looked great. So I hope they continue at it, because if this is what they're producing in year 25, like, I'm here for year 30. I'm here for year 35, if they can still do it.
When Keith had a very viral Seinfeld tweet that like a million people commented on, quote tweeted, whatever, which was actually really fun to read back. But yeah, I mean, they've had a year. Every Time I Die has had a year, and this would have been an honorable mention for me had I also remembered it. You're right. It's the visual of it is great. It's all over the map sonically in places that I mean, I've never been a huge fan of the band, but I listened to this one because I knew you loved it, and that's what we do. We recommend stuff to each other, and the Andy Hull, hearing him on that song was, man, the whole thing was cool. It was just something that to behold. There's a vibe behind it, and it's cool that they're still doing what they're doing this far into it, and hopefully they work out whatever's going on behind the scenes, because they kick ass.
Yeah. There's a validation when it's coming from you guys, because I was a casual fan of the band, and I really dug this album too. So definitely gives it another layer of, this is worth revisiting if I just kind of threw it in the background like I do with a lot of albums. Just maybe something sticks out and I'll stop what I'm doing and pay more attention. But these strong recommendations kind of change that whole dynamic. So that's cool.
One thing to mention is when you checked out this record, Tone, you said that the song White Void gave a Deftones vibe, which I didn't hear at all. Listening, like I would never associate Every Time I Die with Deftones, and that's not because it doesn't sound like it. It's because me personally, I don't associate that. However, I checked. I was reading up on Reddit, reading Facebook comments, and you're not the only one. Do. You're not the only one. A lot of people said White Void is very Deftones-ish, and I'm like, yeah, it is. Like if you strip away what you know about Every Time I Die and listen to it just sonically, very Deftones-ish.
I remember the night that I sent that to you, which is because I'm a fucking weirdo like that. But I was driving home.
Confirmed.
I was driving home from Auburn at work late night on a Friday, and I was like, I'll toss that Every Time I Die record on for the ride home. Why not? And I was like, no, this has this vibe. This has that vibe. This is it. Like it is all over the map in a good way. Like they try some things. They also do their experiment thing too, which is really cool.
Yep. Great record.
Wow. That's another thing. Listening to an album like you did on that drive home, like there's no distractions. You're dialed into that album. So that might be the best way to listen to the music.
Yep. I would agree with that. All right, Nate.
Bring us home, baby.
One?
So number one, and now that I'm looking at my list with all the stuff I crossed out, like there is actually a lot of honorable mentions, but I thought that I would actually mention it in the list. But Kings of Leon, that was an honorable mention. Ben Howard, I don't know if you guys know Ben Howard. He had put out a great record this year.
Yep.
But yeah, my number one, we already talked about it at length, and I wasn't a fan before because I just didn't know who they were. But my number one is actually Turnstile. I'm a huge fan now. Nice. And they rolled through here with Suicide Boys.
That's right. Yep.
4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago or something.
Weird
and I couldn't
pairing.
go to
Yeah, weird pairing.
Yeah, I couldn't make it to the gig, but I was just bummed because this took my number one, dude. I'm a huge fan now, and I didn't even know who they were before. So you got to drop these hints earlier, man.
Well, we do it. It's just a matter of you listening.
Yeah, it's right. Bandwidth.
That's half the problem. You were much better, Nate. I remember listening. I listened to an episode fairly recently of ours to put together the YouTube video, like months ago, and I was like giving you shit for not listening, and now you do. So you've grown. You've grown as an individual.
No, it's definitely like a theme of the podcast. Like, I'll get to it in 5 years or whatever. But I love the record. I think I like it so much too because it's there's a cool, I think we already said it before, but the whole Reading Rainbows sequence in between songs, like it plays well, plays through nicely. And I don't know, there's something about the album that's just like a feel good. You feel good when you listen to it. And yeah, it edges out every band, legacy or not, for me. So that's saying something. And it'll be one of my favorite bands, and I'll probably catch them on all tours, except for that last one.
When I was kind of like thinking of that album for this conversation, I thought of like there's this like confident innocence with this album, and like
totally
we kind of hit on it with Damien in that kind of bonus episode, where it's like they're confident that they can experiment like this, but there's this innocence that they don't care what people think. I don't know. There's like this weird meet in the middle with this album, and it just works. I don't know. It's a vibe. The album's a vibe, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know. If you don't, go listen to it, and you'll find out very quickly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a consensus. It's one of the three of us favorite albums of 2021. So happy that came out, and happy that we were able to. The three of us love it. I mean, that doesn't happen every day, right?
Right. I love their name too. Like that's a great fucking name, Turnstile.
It is.
That is a good band name. Yeah.
I think it's the vibe too.
Yeah.
I think that vibe of the album you're talking about, Twan, is an important point, because it's like coming out of a very dark age, and then this album comes out and kind of makes everything better. You know, we just like pandemic was pretty rough. You know, lockdown was pretty rough. So to come out of it and have an album like this that really is almost like the doors are opening to heaven, and you listen to this album, you're like, life's actually great.
That's
even
a great point.
The cover art, right?
Yeah.
Like it fits it, and it's shit. It's my number one too, Nate. You win.
It's funny. I read online someone, you know, they used it as a diss, but they were like, if Urban Outfitters was a band, it would be Turnstile.
That's just hate.
Yeah,
that's
and
just
it's like
haters.
And you get that when anyone gets to this level, you get that. But I think they deserve all the accolades. As someone who saw them on their come up, I think in like 2016 timeframe, 2016, 2017, they had the same energy then that they have now. Like nothing's changed as far as their work ethic and you know what they put into it. There's just more ears now. More people are listening.
Let them have their moment, haters.
Yeah. It actually kind of brings me back to the Urge, right? They've been at it for so long, and then they finally broke through in like 98.
Yep.
10 years later.
All right. That is a wrap on our top albums of 2021 and our kind of look back on, you know, the pod in 2021 as well. So we have hopefully next week, our final episode of 2021, an interview for you. It should be, you know, up Monday, 12/27 is when we'll drop that one. And that'll be the last episode of the year. There won't be any, you know, news or any of that stuff. We're pretty excited about this one if it comes through. So if not, I'm going to cut all this and we'll talk another time. But yeah, and we'll see y'all in 2022.
Cheers. Happy New Year's.
We appreciate everyone, all the guests, all the fans, all the family, all the friends. Thank you so much, and we'll be back, as Tone said, next week.
Peace, podheads.
Well said. Cheers to all you nerds.